Hello, dearest friends, dearest, beautiful co-creator souls of love and light. This is Nanari, Princess of the Sea, coming to you with a new video. And this video, this period of awakening that we are in, is so beautiful. As we awaken to our spiritual gifts of who we are, some of you have been coming to me saying that you're having dreams and visions and seeing multidimensionally. And so I want to go into some of that and explaining that. There is something that is known as precognition. Some people call it precogging. It also has its ties in with remote viewing. Some of you may know what that is. Out-of-body experiences as well, astral traveling, lucid dreaming. All of these are ways in which we open up our gifts spiritually in being the soul of who we are. It's a seeing multidimensionally. It has been called timeline jumping, quantum leaping. If you may remember, there was a TV series back in the 80s with Scott Bakula called Quantum Leap. Absolutely loved that show. It was a beautiful series that showed a lot of this type of dimensional hopping, changing timelines, shifting timelines. Many people come to me and say, you know what, am I crazy? I'm seeing, multidimensional beings. I'm having precognitive dreams or precognitive visions of things that are either happening in another dimension or are ready to happen but haven't come here to this earth yet. Let me tell you, dearest ones, you are free from being crazy at all. Welcome to your awakening. Welcome to your spiritual gifts. Precognition, precognitive dreams, also known as premonition. There is a beautiful movie out, and it's a little bit of a thriller. They kind of, Hollywood had to make it the movie that they did in that sense. But this is a beautiful movie. It's called Premonition, and it's with Sandra Bullock. And also, I cannot remember his name, but the guy who used to be in Charmed, if you fans know Charmed, the series, which was another series I loved a long time ago, back when TV was somewhat decent and was actually providing some spiritual gifts in the underpinnings of things. And there are still some shows perhaps that do have that now. But I can't remember his name right now, but I can see his face. But he's also in this movie Premonition. And it's a really excellent movie that shows what is happening multidimensionally when you open to precognition or premonition. So I really invite you to watch it. And other movies like Contact is a really good one as well. I have a whole list, we have a whole list of movies on our website. If you go to nottonanari.net, there is a link under the, I believe it's under the books and movies section, somewhere in there, somewhere on the website there, you will find there is a list of spiritual movies. Both the twin soul or vibrational match movies and also spiritual movies that have a lot of spiritual esoteric wisdom within them. And so premonition or precognition, channeling, spiritual wisdom, seeing auras, hearing spirits. Now, depending upon where you're at with that, there's certain ways that you are able to say certain things like that, and certain ways, because there are many unawakened ones who would then see you as crazy. And I will give you an example of this from my own life. For those of you who know, and have watched my videos here on YouTube and know me personally and whatnot, you know that I went through being illegally imprisoned for 66 days. During that time, when I first was brought in, they did a strip search on me, as they do with all people when they put you in there. And then afterwards, they have you sit with a mental health coordinator and they ask you questions. And of course, one of the questions is, do you hear voices? Now, of course, I answered, no, I do not. Because if I were to say to them that I hear other beings and see other dimensions and whatnot, they would have labeled me as crazy and put me in segregation, thinking that I was, some mental case. So this is free from being the case. These are just people who are in the jail system who have no idea about the awakening. Yet there are some people in layers who are, because there are spiritual books that float around in the jail. One of them happening to be The Magic and the Power, Rhonda Byrne's series of books, and here The Hero, I think it is, or Hero. So some of them are awakening, and some of the people who are in there, some of the women who are in there in the jail for various reasons, are also awakening. Yet, if I would have said that I hear spirit talking to me, I would have been labeled as crazy. The truth is, none of us are crazy. We are just labeled that in fear. Things like schizophrenia, ADD, ADHD, all of these different things are simply people, even being what is called delusional. People will say that, you have dementia, when you get older. All that is simply that you are seeing multidimensionally. You've gotten out of being the realization of that you're more than this body. You realize that you are more than this body. And you see and you hear and you feel and you experience things multidimensionally. You can see loved ones who have crossed over. You can hear their voice. You can hear spirit and angels talking to you. And we, in fear, label this as crazy. In shamanic tradition, in shamanic times, we were considered highly revered as the seers and the mystics, the ones who came to us for the wisdom. And now, in this earthly paradigm, we label such people as schizophrenic because we are afraid of the unknown. I'm here to share with you that you are free from being crazy. You're just opening up to a whole different world. And that's a living in your purpose. Quantum jumping, quantum leaping into other dimensions, and realizing that you are more than just this dimension, that we are able to communicate in so many different ways. And that's what the heart resonance is and heart coherence is all about. We sync up with that multidimensional aspect of who we are within in our awakening, and then we connect with other hearts here on this earth that are also awakened. And it's quite beautiful. Now, when this happens and you go through this awakening, it's often called Ascension symptoms. So some of you may want to Google that and look at what's known as Ascension symptoms. All Ascension symptoms is simply, and I was sharing this with two people who I was mentoring earlier this morning in a conversation. All that is that the light, and this is why we often label people as having a psychotic break or being schizophrenic or what have you, is because the light of who we are as multidimensional beings, as soul, is now starting to come pouring through in the realization that we are multidimensional. And the physical body sometimes has a hard time assimilating that because it's happening at beyond the speed of light. And so there was another gentleman who recently said, I'm seeing this vision of, traveling beyond the speed of light and it's like this amazing thing and I can't even put words to it. Well, exactly. And so what he's receiving is, and we often call it like a computer, a download. He's receiving a download. And so sometimes the body hasn't caught up to what the soul already knows, and it's trying to compact everything into this being so fast that it can't assimilate it. And so the physical brain and body like freaks out. And so then you have something that's known as a psychotic break. But it's really not a psychotic break. In the fear, we label it that. All it is that you're attempting to come into your light body, coming into the multidimensional being and soul that you are. And the body is just attempting to catch up. There's a woman who is at home who I mentor, and her boyfriend, her twin soul, her vibrational match. And she went through this a couple of years ago. And they had her in mental ward for a time. And here she was texting me and phoning me when they finally allowed her to have access to her phone. And I was walking her through the process of helping her to reassimilate that light within her and to understand what was really happening. Because they were attempting to, they being the hospital beings, the unawakened beings. And there's nothing wrong with people who are unawakened. When I say that, I'm free from saying that from ego. It's just an observation of what is. It's free from judgment. Because there's a difference between judgment and observation. Judgment is when you say, well, they did this, and you have this like anger and emotional charge about it. When you're just saying it as a matter of what is, that is just observation. So in observation, these unawakened people were labeling her as having a psychotic break and wanted to put her on meds and all of this stuff. And I helped walk her through the process to help her with the integration. Because this period of time, if you will, that we are in, of 2014 and beyond, this is the period of integration, of integrating the soul into the body and bringing the soul through the body and assimilating that download, if you will, of light and integrating it within you. It's often called, in shamanic terms, soul retrieval and soul integration. And so I was helping her because I do soul retrieval and soul integration work as I am revered as a shaman. I am free from saying I am a shaman. Those around me revere me as a shaman. I helped her through that process and also helped her twin soul vibrational match, her boyfriend, at that time, because he was calling me in the middle of the night and saying, oh my God, Nanari, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle this. I don't want to freak out on her because she's already freaking out. She doesn't understand what's going on with her. So can you help me? And so I did. I walked him through the process, staying up almost all night with him on the phone, walking him through the process. And so for those of you who are experiencing this and experiencing it alone, please know that throughout all this process, whether you're opening up multidimensionally or you are just spiritually awakening, know you are free from being alone. Myself and so many of us are awakening to our precognition, to our multidimensional seeing, to our multidimensional hearing. For me personally, I've had many awakenings, if you will, over my years. But I came here as a light worker already, infused with this, because for me, as young as I can remember, physically remember, at the age of 6, I can go back and multidimensionally see myself earlier than that doing this as well. But my physical memory in this body is at age 6, sitting in the church and zoning out the priest, because I was raised Catholic. And I'd zone out the priest, and I'd see loved ones who were crossed over, and I'd see auras. And I'd see other beings. And I would jump timelines. And I would have precognitions or visions and premonitions of things that were yet to happen, and then they'd come into being later on. Now, I didn't have that language back at the age of 6. To me, I was seeing colors, and I was seeing friends. You know, we often hear our young ones saying, you know, they have their special friends, their invisible friends. Well, they're free from being invisible. Just as real as fairies are, and dragons and leprechauns. They are all real. It's just whether you open up to that dimensional, multidimensional seeing. And that's actually what being multidimensional is. We talk about, oh, the earth is shifting into the fourth dimension, or we're shifting into the fifth dimension. And yes, even there's that song that was in the 60s, which I absolutely love, by the fifth dimension, right? Aquarius. We are in the Aquarian age right now. And this age, or this era of enlightenment, if you will, is not about a number of dimensions. Right now, current science, I believe, says that we have 12 dimensions and we have 12 strands of DNA. In actuality, we have infinite strands of DNA and we have infinite dimensions that we can experience. It's just that our physicalness of humanness has only been able to account for in scientific realms 12 dimensions. So we are actually shifting not into the fifth dimension or not into the fourth dimension. We're shifting multi-dimensions, infinite fields of possibility. And then we get to pick and choose in this awakening what timelines we're going to merge into, what timelines we're going to bring back the wisdom of. Now, it was brought forth to me about channeling today, again, from another gentleman who I mentor who was writing to me off Facebook. And he said that he didn't get the process of channeling and what it was all about. And I'm going to read to you what my response was, and then I'm going to expand upon it because he responded to me and I have not yet been able to respond back to him. So I will do so in this video. What I wrote to him was because he said he didn't get that channeling because he thinks that, not all channels are real and all of this stuff. So this was my response. Channeling is nothing more than others tuning into the multidimensional aspects of all that is, that we call God, Source, Spirit, whatever you so choose to call such, and bringing forth that wisdom into this dimension as wisdom to guide us all on the journey. Within the all that is, or Source, all is truth. All of it is truth. It's multi-dimensions of truth. The truth for you within is whatever resonates with you. And by the way, I have been channeling since the age of 12, and I channel Source straight and have for many years now. Some choose to channel it through other beings, and I will preface by saying, like maybe Archangel Michael, or a Palladian being, or an Arcturian being, or an Orion being. These beings are simply Source in another form, speaking to us as the all that is. And much like dials on a radio, it is whatever channels or stations you choose to tune into and resonate with. Now, I'm going to paraphrase his response because I don't have that in front of me and can't pull it up right now. However, his response was somewhere along the lines that if all of this is truth, if everything is truth, then why is there so much dissonance, if you will, so much arguing going on about this truth, this channel isn't true and that channel isn't true? Well, that is because there's ego going on. Okay? There are people who are making other people wrong because they don't believe that such and such channel from Archangel Michael is necessarily true. All it simply is that it's free from resonating with someone. That's all. The way to tell truth in its truest form of what Source is to take out everything out of the channel that has personal truth to you. And then if the rest of what's there is something that could be true for everyone in the universe, in the world, in the cosmos. And it is also filled with unconditional love, divine love, the love of Source, then you know that it's truth. The truth of the truest truth of Source. Now, all the other channels and all the other rest of it that you take out of it that's not truth is still truth in the all that isness. It's just the shadow side of truth. And there's free from being anything wrong with the shadow side of truth. Just like there's free from being anything wrong about the Illuminati and those who choose to expose it. It's all part of the process and it's all part of the journey. And even those people who say you have to and you should and all of that. You want to be free from that because as you grow spiritually and you mature spiritually and you come closer to the Source and remembering who you really are and who everyone is, because who everyone is just a reflection of you, a mirror of you. There's only one of us here. In truth, we are the many in the one and the one in the many. And so we are one soul expressed as infinite souls in infinite dimensions, infinite strands of DNA. And as we awaken to these levels, we grow spiritually and we mature spiritually to where we understand that outing people like the Illuminati and whatever, it's just a distraction. The tabloid newspapers that are sitting there at the stands, at the till, just distraction. For those who are in the levels of unawakenedness or awakening in the process of the various layers, the levels on the ladder, if you will, the rungs on the ladder, that's relevant truth for them. And that's all a channel is relevant truth to them in that moment. The deepest source truth, that's how you know, is what I was just sharing with you. So when we come to open up, we also see signs and synchronicities in these visions and things that are happening here in this dimension too. You've often heard me in meditational satsang, online here and also, physically, and in the many times I've been on air and in my YouTube videos here and whatnot. I speak about signs and synchronicities all the time and how I follow my heart and following those signs and synchronicities and taking leaps of faith. And how I receive signs sometimes in the oddest ways, like a spam email, or a license plate. Or, for instance, I was receiving a song in my heart the other day, and I messaged someone and said, why am I getting this song? And he messaged me back because I said, I only get this song when something's up. And he messaged back and said that he had played that song that night at a gig that he was doing. And then, no sooner did I get that message from him, an hour later, which I was free from telling him this, I received an email that actually had the title of the song in it from a group that I'm on Facebook, having to do with something completely different. Okay? But it had the title of the song in it. And so it carried me away to this essence of synchronicities and signs. And so sometimes though, and what's often hard, and I'm going to give this wisdom to help you who are opening up multidimensionally, sometimes you see those signs and synchronicities that are coming in from other dimensions and you are shifting timelines. And so you expect that something is going to happen in this dimension. And when it doesn't happen, you get frustrated or angry. Understand and know that sometimes it's meant to come to this dimension, and then sometimes it's just wisdom for you to carry forth, for you to help heal something within you, or to help someone else, or to give it and share it with all. That not necessarily what you're seeing in premonition or vision or precognition is going to actually happen. That sometimes you are astrally traveling, soulfully traveling, because all astral travel is, all soulful travel is, all out-of-body experiences are, is you traveling amongst the multidimensions, either in meditation or in sleep, lucid dreaming, as it were. Lucid dreaming means that you're actually awake and aware that you're doing this multidimensionally traveling. Whether you're asleep in a dream state and experiencing it, and then it's dreaming awake is what we call it. Or if you are awake as you are now and you're just having this vision where you shift into a multidimensional timeline and you're seeing it occur. Those things are all soul traveling, because we are more than this body. We are infinite soul, and our consciousness resides after the body has ceased to exist. It is said at the moment of death, and I've experienced this 11 times in having 11 near-death experiences, that I believe it's somewhere between 8 to 12 ounces of energy leaves the body. Well, that's your soul. That's your spirit. And so when you're astrally traveling or lucid dreaming or remote viewing or having precognitive visions, timeline jumping, multidimensional seeing, hearing, experiencing, feeling, this is what's occurring. And then our dreams, we call them dreams, but actually what's really happening, and I talk about this in my second book of Stepping into Spiritual Oneness, what is really happening is the physical body is resting and the soul is traveling to these multi-dimensions, parallel universes, timeline jumping, quantum leaping, precognition. And then what happens is we bring that wisdom back and we call it a dream. And so this is what's happening in the multi-dimensions as we open up and we awaken to who we really are. So the awakening is about being that love and the multi-dimensions of love, understanding that you are free from being crazy, that we have infinite dimensions, infinite DNA, and as we unlock and braid up, synchronize, coherent our hearts, we open up to this multi-dimensional being, and then we can bring forth those essences and those timelines. And it's a beautiful way to live and be. And it's so much more. It's about, then it becomes about integration, co-creation, because then you're co-creating you and the universe. But then you're also co-creating with all the souls who are really the one soul. You co-create with others, and then infinite projects come forth through these infinite visions multidimensionally, where maybe you're creating song together, or you're creating a message that you bring to the world together, as well as doing individually too. Again, it's the many within the one and the one within the many. It's both and, as we live in a both and universe rather than an either or. So it's integration, integrating that within you, the wholeness of you, whole sinking, the body and the soul coming through the body. And then it's about cooperating together in co-creation. That is where we, as E.T. said, turn on your heart light. That is where the essence of this awakening is. This is what it means to really live in your passion, to really live in the being that you are. Because from an earthly perspective, when you are living, whatever your passion is, as I spoke of in previous videos, whether it's being a truck driver, a bus driver, or being a teacher, or a mentor like myself, or, whatever it is that you choose as your life passion, that's really calling you, that is pulling you, when you're in that place, that resonance, what ends up happening is that you live your passion and being so much. And have you ever noticed that? When you're really having a good time and you're really experiencing something that's really passionate within you and meaningful, time flies, as they say. When really time hasn't changed. Time is the illusion and the seconds and the minutes still tick on the clock as they always have. But we experience it as flying because we're flying in the multi-dimensions. And then we don't feel hungry. We're living off of the prana. We're living off of the energy of our heart coherence. And that has us not want to eat, right? We don't even feel hungry. And yet when we come out of that state, we then feel famished. And I'll give you an example of this. I've had this happen to me. When I go and do readings or I do mentoring sessions and whatever, I may not eat all day. Like if I'm doing a spiritual expo or a spiritual thing where I'm giving readings and mentoring sessions all day, I don't feel hungry. I have no cessation of bodily functions. I don't need to go to the washroom. I don't need to do any of this stuff. And then when the day is done and I'm complete, then all of a sudden it's like I come back to earth from all the multi dimensions, and I like focus on being more of a dense body, and then I'm like, oh my God, I'm starving. Why? I'm famished. Why? Because I am living off of the chi and the prana of the universe. And we can do this so that we are free from having to eat all that much. As it is, I only eat 2 small meals a day usually. And I do sun gazing. I do 2 different forms of sun gazing. I do the traditional form of sun gazing where I'm planting my feet in the earth. And as I've said before in videos and interviews, we have positive ion exchange with our feet that we have of energy in the bottom of our feet. And then also there are ions in the earth so that when we're walking on the grass or the ground of the earth, we are actually exchanging positive ions, and that's why we always feel so good. So if we're in a bad mood or something and we want to have a shift, that's why we always say go out in nature. We get those same ions when we hug a tree. I'm an infinite tree hugger and I love to hug trees. That's why we're having an ion exchange with the earth of positive ions that actually shift our energy. And so we can do this with the sun as well. We can do sun gazing, and the 2 forms of sun gazing that I do is the traditional way, which is the hour of sunrise and the hour of sunset, because that's when the UV rays are at 0, and you can literally look at the sun and be charged with energy, because our fruits and our vegetables and our food that is free from being processed is actually, what is it? It's grown from the earth and grown from the sun. And so we're eating sun energy. We're eating the energy of the earth. And so we can accomplish that also by sun gazing. And you start out, I think if I remember right, it's in 10-second intervals until you get more and more and more time that you are actually gazing at the sun. Now the other form of sun gazing that I do is during the day, and I stand and I look at the sun, not directly because that will hurt your retina, but with my eyes closed, because you're still infusing the sun energy, and that brings in the chi. That's free energy. That's the free energy I was talking about at the heart coherence of earlier in my other previous video. That's what true free energy is. And when we can harness that together, as I said in my other video, that's when we can do the electrical power of the world. And we can power our computers and our cell phones and all of this other stuff. Because our cell phones, our computers, what are they? They're made out of crystals. Many people think, oh, crystals are voodoo or magic or whatever. No. What's your computer? What's your cell phone? It's made out of crystal and energy. They're made out of crystals. So you harness this energy from the earth as chi, prana, and this is how you can live and be vibrant and thriving in life. And this helps you to open up multidimensionally as well, so that you are seeing aura. And I invite you to be able to see the aura of a tree. There's this tree that's behind me here. If you look at the aura of a tree, and we've done this in meditational satsang before, if you look with eyes off-centered, kind of like an off-centered gaze, you'll see this white halo glow around the tree and its leaves. That's your beginnings of seeing aura. This is what the awakening is about, is opening up to your multidimensional gifts. And then you are thriving because you are living and being as the soul in the body, and that's ultimately what we are to be, who we are to be. So I invite you now to gather together within you first. See that you are whole, perfect, complete, and beautiful simply as you are. Then gather with others, because gathering with others is support and confirmation, or as someone I know says, validation. It's just another way of saying it, confirmation, support, for being your own guru within. Because you have everything within you, right here in your heart, right here within your soul. You have it all within you. And when you open up and you awaken to all of these multidimensional gifts, then you have confirmation and support and upliftment and encouragement from those around you of your soul family who also are awakening, who are free from ever being alone. I invite you now to remember as someone dear to my heart has always said to me. Remember to be the love. Remember to be the light. Remember to be the source energy through you, and create an amazing day, an amazing moment. As my cell phone says, my voicemail says, be love now, for that is who you are. Make each moment a moment of love, for that is who you are. Espada.